wherever you're here to prove yourself. We might not be alone in this hunt.
A new hunting ground, deadlier rules, and a predator like never before. Predator Badlands 2025 is packed with hidden details and shocking facts. Watch till the end on J Film Reviews for the full breakdown. Predator Badlands is a 2025 American science fiction action movie. It is directed by Dan Trachtenberg and written by Patrick Eisen, based on a story created by both Trachtenberg and Eisen. This film is the seventh entry in the Predator franchise and takes place after the events of The Predator released in 2018. The movie stars Elle Fanning and Dimitrius Schuster-Koloamatangi in the main roles. The story centers on Deck, a young Yautja who has been exiled from his own kind after his ship crashes on a dangerous and hostile planet. Deck finds himself completely alone in an unforgiving environment. To regain his honor and prove that he is worthy of being a hunter, he must track down and kill a powerful apex predator that rules the planet. During his journey, Deck unexpectedly teams up with Thea, an android created by Wayland Yutani Corporation. Together they face deadly creatures, harsh conditions, and constant danger as Deck struggles to survive and earn his place as a true hunter. Predator Badlands had its premiere at the TCL Chinese Theatre on November 3, 2025. A few days later, it was officially released in the United States on November 7, 2025 by 20th Century Studios. After its release, the film received mostly positive responses from critics. It also performed well at the box office, earning a total of $184.4 million worldwide. Deck is a small and weak Yautja from the planet Yautja Prime. He wants to earn the respect of his clan leader and father, Nojor. To prove himself, Deck plans to hunt the Kalisk, the most dangerous predator living on the deadly planet Ganna, a world so feared that even Najor avoids it. Before Deck can leave, Najor arrives and decides that Deck is too weak to belong to the clan. He orders Deck's brother, Kavi, to kill him. Kavi refuses to follow this order and instead activates his ship to secretly send Deck to Jenna. As Deck is taken away, he is forced to watch in horror as Najor kills Kavi for his disobedience. After crashing on Jenna, Deck struggles to survive against the planet's deadly plants and violent creatures. During his journey, he unwillingly teams up with Thea, a damaged android from the Wayland Yutani Corporation. Thea's entire team was wiped out by Kalisk, and she offers to help Deck track the creature. Later, they are joined by a friendly local creature that Thea names Bud. Bud marks Deck with its saliva, though Deck doesn't understand its importance at the time. Meanwhile, Taya's sister android Tessa is recovered by Wayland Yutani units and repaired at their main base. Once operational, Tessa begins searching for Deck and Thaya. She eventually finds Deck's ship and takes all of his weapons. After finding the remains of her destroyed team, Thaya tries to repair her own damaged systems. She then reveals that a Wayland Yutani capture team is on its way and that their true mission is to capture the Kalisk alive. Thaya warns Deck that he cannot defeat the creature and urges him to escape. Feeling betrayed and abandoned, Deck chooses to face the Kalisk alone. He fights the massive beast and manages to cut off its head, but the Kalisk regenerates and overpowers him. Instead of killing Deck, the creature surprisingly spares his life. Soon after, the Wayland Yutani team arrives and captures both Deck and the Kalisk. Tessa congratulates Thaya for completing the mission and then begins experimenting on Deck. Thaya steps in to stop her, but Tessa sees Thaya's emotions as a flaw and orders her to be deactivated. Before that can happen, Thaya helps Deck escape from the transport vehicle. Deck then realizes that Bud is actually the child of the Kalisk and that the creature recognized Deck by the scent of Bud's saliva. Understanding this, Deck decides to rescue both Thaya and the captured Kalisk. With most of his weapons gone, Deck is forced to create new weapons using materials from Jenna's environment. Deck and Bird sneak into the Wayland Yutani base, kill the guards, and free Thaya. While Thaya searches for the Kalisk, Deck and Bud cause chaos throughout the facility. They are eventually confronted by Tessa, who is controlling a power loader match and using Deck's plasma caster against him. Thaya manages to free the Kalisk, which joins the battle and eventually swallows Tessa whole. Deck and Bird share brief, meaningful moments with the creature, but from inside its body, Tessa kills the Kalisk using cryogenic grenades and plasma caster shots. After escaping, Tessa prepares to kill Thaya for betraying her. Thaya completely cuts ties with Tessa and Deck disables her, allowing Bud to rip off Tessa's head and finally end her. Sometime later Deck returns to Yautja Prime. He presents Tessa's skull to his father as a trophy and demands a cloaking device as his reward. Joe refuses and orders his guards to kill Deck. Deck quickly defeats the guards and challenges Najor to a duel. He wins the fight, cuts off Najor's arm, and traps him using his own hunting device. Joe tries to save himself by offering Deck a place back in the clan, but Deck refuses, saying he has already found his own clan with Thaya and Bud. A now older and larger Bud kills Nijor by biting off his head. Deck takes the cloaking device for himself as the remaining clan members raise their weapons. At that moment, a massive Yautja ship appears in the sky as Thaya wonders whether the ship is friendly. Deck grips his sword and reveals that the ship belongs to his mother. Detail about for the movie production, development, and pre production. The journey of Predator Badlands began in February 2024 when the project was officially revealed to be in development as a standalone film within the Predator franchise. This announcement came on the heels of the success of Prey 2022, which had revitalized the franchise and demonstrated that fresh creative approaches could breathe new life into the decades old property. Director Dan Trachtenberg, who had helmed Prey to critical acclaim, was tapped to return the franchise, this time with an even more ambitious vision that would challenge audience expectations of what a Predator film could be. Patrick Azan, who had written Prey, joined Trachtenberg once again as a co-writer for Badlands. The duo had developed a strong creative partnership on the previous film, and their collaboration continued with the Trachtenberg and Eisen sharing story credit while Asen handled the screenplay. The development process was notably expensive, with several additional writers contributing literary material that didn't make it to the screen. Writers Brian Duffield, Brian Fuller, Patrick Somerville, and Ben Schwartz are credited for additional literary material not on the screen, suggesting a robust development process that explored multiple narrative possibilities before settling on the final story. Trachtenberg's creative influences for Badlands were both diverse and specific, drawing from a wide range of sources that would inform the film's unique aesthetic and thematic approach. The director cited the fantasy artwork of Frank Frazetta as a major visual influence, with the artist's muscular, primal depictions of warriors and monsters providing a foundation for the film's visual language. Terrence Malick's philosophical and poetic approach to filmmaking also influenced the project, suggesting a more contemplative and artistic sensibility than typical action franchises might employ. The director also drew inspiration from classic genre films and characters. Conan the Barbarian provided a template for the hero's journey in the hostile environment, while Drax the Destroyer from the Marvel Universe offered an example of how to make an alien warrior character sympathetic and relatable. Classic films Shane 1953 and Mad Max 2 1981 informed the film's western and post apocalyptic elements, respectively, while the Book of LA 2010 contributed to the vision of survival in a harsh landscape. Clint Eastwood westerns provided additional influence on the film's stoic, minimalist storytelling approach. Interestingly, Trachtenberg also cited the video game Shadow of the Colossus 2005 as an influence, particularly relevant given that games focus on a lone warrior facing massive creatures in an epic landscape. A major development decision that would fundamentally distinguish Badlands from its predecessors was the choice to make the predator the protagonist rather than the antagonist. This represented was a radical departure from the franchise tradition and required careful consideration during the development phase. The creative team had to determine how to make an iconic movie monster sympathetic while retaining the essential characteristics that made the predator compelling. This led to the creation of Dak, a young Yautja who is an outcast from his own society, providing built in sympathy through his underdog status. In June 2024, Elle Fanning entered negotiations to join the film in a dual role, with her casting officially confirmed in August 2024. Fanning's involvement added significant star power to the project and signaled the film's ambitions to blend genre filmmaking with prestige talent. Her dual role as both Thaya and Tessa would allow her to explore contrasting aspects of artificial intelligence and provide both emotional support and conflict within the narrative. The film's development drew extensively from the Predator franchise's expanded universe, which had been developed through comics, novels, and video games over several decades. Badlands incorporated terminology and concepts that had only existed in these supplementary materials, bringing them into official film canon for the first time. Most significantly, the film adopted the terms Yautja and Yautja prime to refer to the predator species and their home world. These terms originated in the 1994 novel Aliens vs. Predator Prey by authors S.D. Perry and Steve Perry, which itself was a spin off of the Aliens vs. Predator comic book series published by Dark Horse Comics. By incorporating these elements, Badlands acknowledged and validated the extensive world building that fans had engaged with for decades. To fully realize the vision of a predator centric story, the production team determined that a consistent and believable language system was essential. Linguist Britton Watkins was brought onto the project to develop a comprehensive written and verbal language for the predator species. This wasn't simply creating random alien sounds, but rather constructing a grammatically consistent language with its own syntax, vocabulary, and linguistic rules. This level of detail would prove crucial for the film's credibility and for allowing the predator characters to have genuine emotional depth and complexity in their interactions. The decision to the feature the Wayland Yutani Corporation in the film connected Badlands to the Alien franchise universe. The corporation, originally created by screenwriter Dan O'Bannon for the 1979 film Alien, had become synonymous with corporate greed and humanity's worst impulses in the science fiction. Its inclusion in Badlands suggested thematic parallels and opened possibilities for future crossover narratives while providing a familiar antagonistic force for the audiences. Filming Principal photography for Predator. Badlands commenced in New Zealand by August 27, 2024. The production operated under the working title Backpack, a common practice in film production to maintain secrecy and avoid attracting unwanted attention during location shooting. New Zealand's diverse landscapes and established film production infrastructure made it an ideal location for creating the alien world of Ghana, the hostile Death Planet, where much of the film's action takes place. Jeff Cutter served as the cinematographer for the production, returning to collaborate with Trachtenberg after their successful partnership on Prey. Cutter's work on Prey had been praised for its naturalistic lighting and immersive visuals, and his return suggested a continuation of that visual approach while adapting it to the more science fiction oriented setting of Badlands. The cinematographer's challenge would be balancing the practical New Zealand locations with the extensive visual effects work that would transform them into an alien environment. The filming schedule was relatively tight, with principal photography wrapping in late October 2024, suggesting approximately 2 months of the production. This timeline is relatively standard for a mid budget studio production but required careful planning and preparation to ensure all the necessary footage could be captured efficiently. The compact schedule also speaks to the Trachtenberg's experience and planning, having thoroughly prepared during pre production to maximize the effectiveness of the shooting period. Creating Deck, the film's predator protagonist, required a sophisticated blend of practical effects and digital enhancement. Dimitrius, Schuster-Koloamatangi, an experienced stuntman, was cast in the physically demanding role. Schuster's preparation for the role went beyond physical performance. He learned the Predator language developed by Britton Watkins, allowing him to deliver lines with proper pronunciation and emotional inflection. This dedication to authenticity would prove essential for selling the character to audiences. Studio Gillis, a renowned creature effect studio, designed and fabricated a creature suit to portray Deck's body. The suit needed to be both visually impressive and functional, allowing sculptors to perform complex action sequences while maintaining the character's alien appearance. However, the limitations of practical effects in conveying subtle facial expressions led the production to employ motion capture technology for Dex face. This hybrid approach combined the tangible physicality of a creature suit with the expressive possibilities of computer generated facial animation, allowing Deck to convey complex emotions that would be crucial for making him a sympathetic protagonist. Weta Workshop, the acclaimed New Zealand based effects company known for their work on the Lords of the Rings trilogy and numerous other major productions, contributed to the film's practical effects and designs. Their involvement brought additional expertise and craftsmanship to the production, ensuring that the physical elements of the film would meet the highest standards. The collaboration between Studio Gillis and Weta Workshop created a comprehensive practical effects pipeline that would serve as the foundation for the extensive digital enhancements. The production design team faced the challenge of creating the planet Jenna, an environment hostile to life and populated by dangerous flora and fauna. New Zealand's varied terrain provided a starting point, but every shoot would require visual effects enhancements to transform familiar landscapes into an alien world. The design philosophy embraced both beauty and danger, creating a planet that was visually striking while constantly threatening the characters. Post production. The post production phase of Predator Badlands was extensive and complex, reflecting the film's heavy reliance on visual effects to create its alien environments and creatures. Olivier Dumont served as the production visual effects supervisor, overseeing the overall visual effects strategy and ensuring consistency across all the elements. Kathy Segal took on the role of visual effects producer, managing the logistics of coordinating multiple visual effects vendors and ensuring the work stayed on the schedule and budget. The scale of the visual effects work required the involvement of multiple specialized studios, each bringing their expertise to different aspects of the production. Industrial Light and Magic, perhaps the most prestigious visual effects company in the industry, contributed to the film's most complex sequences. ILM's involvement brought cutting edge technology and decades of experience creating believable digital environments and creatures. Veta FX, the digital effects arm of Veta Workshop, provided seamless integration with the practical effects created by their sister company, Rising Sun Pictures. Trickster, Important Looking Pirates, The Yard VFX, and Frame Store all contributed specialized work, creating a truly collaborative international effort. According to the Trachtenberg, every single shot in the film required visual effects work. This statement underscores the ambitious scope of the production and the challenge of creating a fully realized alien world. Even scenes that might appear relatively simple, require digital enhancement to remove modern elements from New Zealand locations, adjust lighting and atmospheric conditions, or add alien flora and fauna to the environments. This comprehensive approach to visual effects work represents a significant evolution from earlier Predator films, which relied more heavily on practical effects and familiar Earth locations. The motion capture work for Deck's facial expressions required sophisticated technology and careful integration with the practical creature suit. The process involved capturing Schuster's facial performance and translating it to Deck's alien features, maintaining emotional authenticity while respecting the character's non human anatomy. This delicate balance between realism and alienness would prove crucial for the audience acceptance of Deck as the protagonist. The creation of the Kalisk, the film's apex predator and primary antagonistic creature, represented another major challenge for the visual effects teams. The creature needed to be imposing and terrifying while also possessing the ability to regenerate, requiring complex digital animation to show its body healing and reforming after taking damage. The creature's design drew from the film's influence, incorporating elements of fantasy art and video game aesthetics while maintaining internal consistency with the film's established visual language. Bud, the creature native to Jenna, who becomes an ally to Deck, required a different approach while also realized through visual effects. Bud needed to be endearing and sympathetic, capable of forming an emotional bond with both Deck and the audience. The character's design and animation needed to balance alienness with familiar emotional cues that would make the character's loyalty and affection readable to the viewers. The android characters, played by Elle Fanning, presented their own unique challenges. While Fanning performed the roles practically, visual effects work was required to show the character's mechanical nature, including scenes where Thaya is damaged and requires repair, and the climactic sequence where Tessa operates a mechanical power loader match. These effects needed to maintain the character's essential humanity while making their artificial nature visually evident. The editing process, while not extensively documented in available materials, would have been crucial for managing the film's pacing and emotional arc. The film needed to balance action sequences with quieter character moments, ensuring that the audience remained invested in Deck's journey while delivering the excitement expected from a Predator film. The structure of the narrative, moving from Yautja Prime to Jenna and eventually back to the Predator home world, required careful management to maintain momentum and ensure each section of the film felt purposeful. Music. The musical score for Predator Badlands was handled by the collaborative team of Sarah Schachner and Benjamin Wallfish, both of whom had previous working relationships with the Trachtenberg. Schachner had composed the acclaimed score for Prey, creating a unique sonic palette that blended traditional orchestral elements with the Native American musical influences and modern electronic textures. Her return to the franchise suggested a desire for musical continuity while adapting to Badlands' different setting and tone. Wallfish had worked with Trachtenberg on Predator, Killer of Killers, the other Predator film the director released in 2025. Wallfish's experience scoring large scale science fiction and action films, including his work on Blade Runner 2049, made him well suited to the epic score of the Badlands. The collaboration between Schachner and Wallfish would allow the film to draw on both composers' strengths, creating a score that could be both intimate in its character moments and sweeping in its action sequences. The score needed to serve multiple functions within the film. It had to establish the alien nature of both Yautja Prime and Jenna, create emotional connections with non human characters who might struggle to express themselves through dialogue, build tension during action sequences, and provide a sense of epic scope to the match the film's ambitious visual presentation. The composers likely developed distinct musical themes for Deck, Thaya, the Kalisk, and potentially Bud, allowing the music to track the relationships and conflicts between these characters. The revelation of the composers came relatively late in the production process in October 2025, just a month before the film's release. This timing suggests that the scoring process was among the final major elements of the post production to be completed, though work had likely been ongoing for months prior to the public announcement. Release Theatrical. The marketing and release strategy for the Predator Badlands demonstrated 20th Century Studios' confidence in the project and their understanding of the franchise's dedicated fan base. In June 2025, the studio announced that the film would receive a Hall H presentation at San Diego Comic Con, one of the most prestigious and highly anticipated events in the popular culture. Hall H presentations are reserved for major studio releases and typically feature exclusive footage, cast and crew appearances, and significant announcements. This placement signaled that Disney and 20th Century Studios viewed Badlands as a tentpole release worthy of major promotional investment. The film's UK premiere took place at the BFI IMAX in London on October 28, 2025. The choice of an IMAX venue for the premiere underscored The film's visual ambitions and the studio's desire to showcase the movie in the most impressive format possible. The London premiere also served to build international anticipation for the film, recognizing the global appeal of the Predator franchise. The world premiere occurred at the TCL Chinese Theatre in Hollywood on November 3, 2025. The Chinese theatre, with its rich history of film premieres and its iconic status in Hollywood, provided an appropriate venue for what the studio clearly positioned as a significant franchise entry. The premiere would have included appearances by the cast and creative team, generating media coverage and social media buzz in the crucial days leading up to the wide release. Predator Badlands received its wide theatrical release in the United States on November 7, 2025. The film was made available in the multiple premium formats including Real D, 3D, and IMAX, maximizing the potential for higher priced ticket sales and providing audiences with enhanced viewing options. The 3D release represented a significant choice as it required additional post production work to convert the film but potentially offered a more immersive experience for the audiences willing to pay the premium. A notable aspect of the theatrical release was the film's PG-13 rating from the Motion Picture Association. This represented a significant departure from franchise tradition as all previous mainline Predator films had received R ratings. The decision to pursue a PG-13 rating was likely driven by both creative and commercial considerations. From a creative standpoint, the film's focus on a sympathetic predator protagonist and its themes of identity and belonging may have allowed for a less graphic approach to violence. Commercially, a PG-13 rating opened the film to younger audiences and potentially increased its box office potential, particularly in the international markets where age restrictions can significantly impact ticket sales. The PG-13 rating proved controversial among some segments of the fan base who associated the Predator franchise with graphic violence and R rated content. However, it's worth noting that Alien vs. Predator 2004 had previously received a PG-13 rating, though that film was generally not considered part of the mainline Predator series due to its crossover nature. The rating reflected broader industry trends toward creating franchise entries that could appeal to the widest possible audience while still maintaining the essential elements that made the property distinctive. Home media. While specific details about the home media release of Predator Badlands were not extensively documented in the available sources, standard industry practice would suggest a multi format release following the theatrical window. The film would likely receive releases on 4K Ultra HD, Blu-ray, standard Blu-ray, and DVD, along with digital purchase and rental options through platforms like iTunes, Amazon Video, and other digital retailers. The film would presumably also eventually become available on Disney Plus, Disney's streaming service, following the theatrical and premium video on demand windows. This platform release would introduce the film to subscribers who might not have seen it in theaters and would position it alongside other franchise entries for ongoing viewership. Special features for home media releases might include behind the scenes documentaries exploring the creation of the Predator language, the design and realization of deck and the other creatures, the visual effects process, and the interviews with the cast and creative team. Given the film's unique approach to the franchise and its technical achievements, there would be substantial material for comprehensive supplementary content. Tie in media. A significant piece of tie in media was announced ahead of the film's release, a prequel comic book published by Marvel Comics, written by Ethan Sachs and illustrated by Alvin Ching. The comic was released on November 12, 2025, shortly after the film's theatrical debut. Set immediately before the events of the movie, the comic presumably provided additional context for the story and characters, potentially exploring Dex's life on Yautja Prime before his exile or providing background on Thaya and the Wayland Yutani expedition to Jenna. The publication of tie-in comic represented both a marketing tool and an expansion of the narrative universe. For fans eager for more content, the comic offered an immediate way to revisit the world of Badlands and potentially gain insights that enhanced their understanding and appreciation of the film. The partnership with the Marvel Comics also leveraged Disney's ownership of both Marvel and 20th Century Studios, creating synergies between different visions of the larger corporation. The choice of creators for the comic was significant. Ethan Sachs had experience writing for major franchises, including work on various Star Wars comics for Marvel, demonstrating his ability to navigate established universes and create stories that respected existing continuity while adding new dimensions. Alvin Ching's illustration work would need to capture the visual style of the film while adapting it to the comic book medium, maintaining consistency in character designs and environments while embracing the different possibilities of sequential art storytelling. Reception, box office. The box office performance of Predator Badlands exceeded industry expectations and set new records for the franchise. As in November 18, 2025, the film had grossed $68 million domestically in the United States and Canada, with an additional $70 million from international territories, bringing its worldwide total to $139 million against a production budget of $105 million. Initial industry projections for the film's opening weekend were in the range of 25 to $30 million domestically. These projections reflected a combination of factors: the franchise's historical performance, the film's unconventional approach of making the predator the protagonist, and the PG-13 rating that both opened the film to the younger audiences while potentially disappointing fans who preferred R-rated content. The film's actual performance significantly exceeded these initial projections. On its first day of release, Predator Badlands earned $15.6 million, which included $4.8 million from Wednesday and Thursday previews screenings. This strong opening day performance led industry analysts to revise their weekend estimates upward to 36 to $38 million, already representing what would be the franchise record. The film ultimately debuted to $40 million at the domestic box office during its opening weekend, establishing a new record for the Predator franchise. This surpassed the previous record held by Alien vs. Predator, which had earned $38 million in its 2004 opening weekend. The achievement was particularly notable given that Alien vs. Predator had benefited from combining two popular franchises and carried the novelty of finally bringing together characters fans had long wanted to see interact. International markets contributed an additional $40 million during the opening weekend, bringing the worldwide opening total to $80 million. This strong international performance demonstrated the global appeal of the Predator franchise and suggested that the film's unique approach resonated with audiences across different cultures and markets. Several factors contributed to the film's box office success: the reputation of director Dan Trachtenberg, who had revitalized the franchise with Prey, gave audiences confidence that Badlands would deliver quality entertainment. The casting of Elle Fanning brought star power and suggested a film with ambitions beyond typical franchise filmmaking. The extensive marketing campaign, including the San Diego Comic Con presentation and high profile premieres, built awareness and anticipation. The premium format options, including IMAX and Real 3D, allowed the film to command higher ticket prices from audiences seeking an enhanced experience. The film's performance also benefited from relatively limited competition during its opening weekend, while it opened alongside Die My Love, Nuremberg, Christie, and Sarah's Oil. None of these films represented direct competition for the same audience demographic. This allowed Badlands to dominate the action and science fiction oriented audience segment without significant challenge. The strong opening weekend performance positioned Predator Badlands favorably for continued success through the remainder of November and into the holiday season. Word of mouth from satisfied viewers combined with ongoing marketing efforts and the film's availability in the premium formats would continue driving ticket sales in the subsequent weeks. From a financial perspective, the film's performance against its $105 million budget was encouraging but required sustained success to be considered definitively profitable. Industry rule of thumb suggests that a film typically needs to earn approximately 2.5 times its production budget to break even after accounting for marketing costs and theatrical exhibition splits. This would put Badlands' break even point around $262.5 million worldwide, while the film's $139 million total as of mid November represented strong performance, continued theatrical revenue, along with eventual home media and streaming income would be necessary to achieve full profitability. The success of Badlands had broader implications for the franchise future. It demonstrated that audiences remained interested in predator stories and were willing to embrace unconventional approaches to familiar material. This success would likely encourage 20th century studios to continue developing additional entries in the franchise and might embolden them to take further creative risks with the property. Critical response. The critical reception to Predator Badlands was largely positive, with the reviewers praising the film's willingness to take creative risks and its success in making a traditionally antagonistic character sympathetic and compelling. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film achieved an 85% approval rating based on 243 critic reviews. The site's critical consensus captured the general sentiment. Director Dan Trachtenberg continues to take the Predator franchise in exciting new directions with Badlands, a rollicking adventure that transforms one of the cinema's most iconic brutes into a hero worth rooting for. On Metacritic, which assigns a weighted average score based on reviews from top critics, the film received a score of 71 out of 100 based on 43 reviews, indicating generally favorable reviews. This score placed Badlands among the better reviewed entries in the franchise and thus suggested that critics appreciated the film's ambitions even when they might have had reservations about specific aspects of execution. Audience response was similarly positive. Viewers polled by Cinema Score gave the film an average grade of A negative, the highest cinema score in the Predator franchise history. This strong audience rating indicated that general viewers found the film satisfying and enjoyed the experience regardless of how it compared to franchise tradition. Post track polling showed that 78% of audience members gave the film a definite recommend rating, suggesting strong word of mouth potential. Specific critical praise focused on several key elements. Liz Shannon Miller, of consequence, awarded the film an A negative and drew an intriguing comparison to Terminator 2 Judgment Day, suggesting that Badlands achieved a similar feat in transforming a previously antagonistic character into a sympathetic protagonist. Miller's review described the film as fresh and wonderful and bold, indicating appreciation for the creative risks for the production took. Tim Robe of the Daily Telegraph gave the film 4 out of 5 stars and specifically praised the film's ability to humanize and specifically praised the film's ability to humanize a film in which not a single human features. This observation gets at one of the central achievements of the Badlands, creating emotional investment in characters who are fundamentally alien. Robe's positive review suggested that the film succeeded in this difficult task. However, not all the critical responses were uniformly positive. Abhimanyu Mathur of Hindustan Times offered a more negative perspective, calling the film a bland spin off that nobody asked for and awarding it only 2 stars. Mathur's critic focused on characterization, describing Deck a whiny teenager rather than an effective underdog. This criticism pointed to one of the inherent challenges in the film's approach, making Deck sympathetic while avoiding reducing the character to familiar human archetypes that might undermine his essential alienness. Peter Bradshaw of The Guardian similarly awarded the film 2 out of 5 stars, criticizing what he saw as excessive humanization of Deck. Bradshaw argued that making the predator too relatable in service of narrative development meant it ceases to be the predator. This critic reflects a tension in the film's approach between maintaining the essential mystique and threatening nature of the predator while making the character sympathetic enough to carry a film as the protagonist. Several critics noted the reversal of traditional predator prey dynamics in the film. Luca Fontana of Galaxis and Manohla Dargis of the New York Times both observed that Deck takes on the role traditionally occupied by human protagonists, while the Kalisk becomes the film's primary threat. This role reversal represented one of the film's most significant conceptual achievements, forcing audiences to reconsider assumptions about the franchise's fundamental dynamics. Geoffrey Crett of Akron Large described the film as representing a significant evolution from Trachtenberg's previous work in the franchise. Crett praised the depiction of Jenna as a savage world supported by high quality visual effects. However, Crett's review also criticized the characterization, suggesting that the characters remained the same puppets serving the same eternal stories of identity quest and blended families. This critic suggested that while the film succeeded in its technical execution and world building, it may not have achieved the same level of innovation in its thematic exploration. Elle Fanning's performance received substantial praise across multiple reviews. Richard Lawson of The Hollywood Reporter described her as a sprightly breath of fresh air, winsomely cutting through the grit and honor stolidity of the predator mindset. Lawson particularly noted that her character steers the film away from impossible bleakness, suggesting that Thaya's presence provided essential emotional balance to the potentially grim negative. Dustin Rolls of Pajiba echoed this segment or sentiment, calling Fanning the glue holding it all together and praising her performance as humorous and intelligent while highlighting jaw dropping action scenes involving her detached legs. The technical achievements of the film received widespread recognition. Meredith Loftus of Off Screen Central, while giving the film a B plus rating, predicted that the only aspect that will get any attention this awards season is the visual effects. This observation acknowledged both the quality of the effects and effective works, perhaps suggested that other elements of the film might not rise to awards worthy levels. Matt Singer of Screen Crush specifically praised the design of deck, nothing that it looks so convincing that the viewer simply accepts it as a living flesh and blood creature. This achievement in creature realization was crucial to the film's success as audiences needed to accept Deck as a genuine character rather than a visual effect. David Crow of Den of Geek credited Dimitrius Schuster's performance beneath the heavy CGI and prosthetics, observing that despite Deck looking unconvincingly alien, but there is a more human tactile performance in those eyes. This nuanced observation suggested that the hybrid approach to practical suit and digital enhancement succeeded in creating an emotionally resonant character. Clint Gage of IGN awarded the film 8 out of 10, complimenting the overall creature design and comparing the flora and fauna of Jenna to those scenes in James Cameron's Avatar films. Gage's description of Jenna as an alien death planet populated with ravenous flora and fauna captured the film's achievement in creating a fully realized and hostile alien environment. Peter DeBrugge of Variety offered one of the more creative critical interpretations, comparing the plot to a live action version of Lewis Carroll's poem Jabberwocky. DeBrugge's review went further in praising the film, naming Badlands the strongest entry in the Predator franchise since the 1987 original. This comparison to the franchise genesis represented high praise and suggested that Badlands had successfully captured some of the original film's essential qualities while bringing fresh perspective to the material. Matthew Turner of Nerdly specifically praised screenwriter Patrick Kazan for successfully making Deck sympathetic to audiences before Elle Fanning's Thaya even appeared in the film. This observation highlighted the importance of the screenplay's structure in ensuring that audiences would invest in Deck as a character before the more conventionally appealing human like android character entered the story. The critical consensus that emerged suggested that Predator Badlands succeeded more through its ambition and technical execution than through revolutionary storytelling or thematic depth. The film's willingness to experiment with franchise conventions and its visual achievements earned it considerable goodwill even from critics who might have questioned specific narrative choices or character development decisions. The positive audience reception indicated that general viewers found these innovations appealing and entertaining, even if some hardcore franchise fans might have preferred a more traditional approach. The range of critical perspectives on the film reflected reflected legitimate tensions in its approach, making an alien hunter sympathetic while retaining the character's essential nature represents a genuine creative challenge, and different viewers would naturally have different opinions about how successfully the film navigated this challenge. The film's PG-13 rating likely influenced its approach to violence and tone, potentially limiting its ability to fully embrace the franchise traditionally darker elements while opening it to broader audience appeal. The critical and commercial success of Predator Badlands positioned it as a significant entry in the franchise's evolution, while it might not have achieved unanimous or unanimous critical acclaim or cultural phenomenon status. It's demonstrated that the Predator franchise remained viable and capable of innovation. The film's performance suggested that audiences were willing to follow creative filmmakers as they explored new possibilities within established franchises, provided the core appeal of the property remained intact. The emphasis in many reviews on Elle Fanning's performance and the film's visual effects highlighted both strengths and potential areas of concern. While these elements clearly worked effectively, the relative lack of critical discussion of deeper thematic resonance or particularly memorable dramatic moments suggested that the film succeeded more as spectacle and technical achievement than as profound cinema. However, for a franchise entry in an action oriented science fiction series, achieving well executed spectacle with engaging characters represented a worthy and challenging goal that Badlands appears to have met successfully. Looking at the film's reception in aggregate, Predator Badlands emerged as a successful reinvention of franchise expectations that pleased most critics and audiences while generating the box office revenue necessary to justify its existence and potentially inspire future entries. The film's creative risks paid off more often than not, and its technical achievements set new standards for the franchise. Whether viewed as a bold experiment or a calculated attempt to broaden franchise appeal, Badlands succeeded in creating an entertaining and visually impressive film that respected the Predator legacy while pushing it in new directions. Casting Predator Badlands 2025 casting. The casting of Predator Badlands represents a bold evolution in the long running franchise, shifting the spotlight from human protagonists to the Yautja predator species itself, while introducing human elements through synthetic characters directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who previously revitalized the series with Prey 2022 and the animated Predator Killer of Killers 2025. The film features a lean ensemble that emphasizes physicality, voice work, and dual performances. The leads carry the emotional weight of an unlikely alliance on a hostile alien world, supported by a mix of suit performers, voice actors, and creature roles that blend practical effects with motion capture. As the forefront is Dimitrius Schuster-Koloamatangi as Deck, the young Yautja outcast who serves as the film's protagonist. Schuster, a New Zealand based actor and stunt performer of Samoan and Tongan heritage, brings a unique physical presence to the role. Known for earlier work in projects like The Panthers 2021 and Red, White and Brass 2023, he underwent an intensive audition process that included obstacle courses alongside professional stunt performers. Director Trachtenberg praised his ferocious movement, nothing it outshone even seasoned stunt teams. Scusters not only wore a 33-pound creature suit crafted by Studio Gillis and Veta Workshop, but also incorporated motion capture for facial expressions, allowing Deck to convey vulnerability and growth despite the heavy prosthetics and CGI enhancements. He learned a custom Yautja language developed by linguist Britton Watkins, adding authenticity to the character's non-verbal communication and roars. Scuster also voices Njor, Dexter's clan leader father, in a dual contribution that underscores the familial tension driving the story. Reviews highlight how his performance humanizes the predator, turning a typically menacing hunter into a sympathetic underdog whose eyes and subtle gestures reveal depth and personality. Opposite him, Elle Fanning delivers a standout dual role as Thaya and Tessa, two Wayland Yutani synthetics or androids with starkly contrasting arcs. Thaya, the damaged alley deck encounters on the death planet Jenna, is portrayed as a babbling, legless robot whose quirky humor and resourcefulness ground the film's more fantastical elements, Fanning's performance infuses Thaya with warmth, intelligence, and a touch of sass, making her an unexpected emotional anchor in a story dominated by alien creatures. Critics describe her as a sprightly breath of fresh air, praising how she navigates action sequences despite the character's physical limitations, including scenes involving detached limbs and mechanical repairs. As Tessa, Thaya's sister, synthetic who is later repaired and reprogrammed to oppose the protagonists, Fanning shifts to a more antagonistic tone. Tessa embodies corporate loyalty to Wayland Yutani, piloting matches and wielding advanced weaponry in climactic confrontations, playing twins in science fiction prosthetics and makeup. Fanning differentiates the roles through vocal inflection, posture, and demeanor. Thaya optimistic and collaborative, Tessa ruthless and directive. Her involvement draws from the Alien universe's synthetic tradition, bridging the franchises subtly while showcasing her versatility as an actress capable of blending vulnerability with menace. Supporting the leads is Rohinal Narayan as Bud, a small friendly creature native to Jenna that becomes Deck's sidekick. Bud adds charm and unexpected heart to the narrative, serving as a companion that evolves into a key ally. The role combines practical puppetry and digital effects with voice work by Chris Terhune, bringing a whimsical yet grounded quality to the character. Bud's design evokes a mix of adorable and dangerous, reflecting the film's balance of humor and peril on a planet filled with lethal flora and fauna. The Yautja clan features additional performers in physical and voice capacities. Mike Homick as Michael Homick portrays Kevi in suit, Deck's protective older brother who defies their father to aid Deck's escape, sacrificing himself in the process. His voice is provided by Stephen Grobe, who also serves as an executive producer and contributes to the film's soundscape. Reuben De Jong handles the physical performance for Njor, the imposing clan leader whose judgment of Deck as the runt propels the exile plot. These roles emphasize the hierarchical, brutal culture of Yautja Prime with practical suits enhancing the imposing stature and movements of alien warriors. Voice contributions extend to other elements such as Alison Wright voicing Muthor to the Alien franchises Muthor, the overseeing system for Wayland Yutani operations, delivering cold, directive announcements that heighten the corporate threat. A fun cameo comes from Matt Duffer and Rose Duffer, the Duffer brothers, who voice Kevin's ship computer, tying into Trachtenberg's connections from Stranger Things. The casting philosophy prioritizes performers who can handle demanding physical demands and emotional nuance under layers of effects. Trachtenberg's team favored practical creature suits for authenticity, with Veta Workshop and Alec Gillis contributing to the designs that allow for expressive performances. This approach contrasts with earlier films' focus on human hunters, instead exploring Yautja society, honor, and outcast status through Deck's journey. Fanning's dual role bridges human or synthetic perspectives with the alien world, while Custer's breakout through performance establishes a new era for the franchise's iconic creature. Minor roles such as Whale and Yutani drawn synthetics like Smith, Cameron Brown fill out the corporate antagonist side, reinforcing themes of exploitation and experimentation. The ensemble's size keeps the focus intimate, allowing the central duo Deck and Thaya to drive the buddy adventure dynamic amid deadly hunts and betrayals. Overall, the casting succeeds in making Predator Badlands feel fresh and character driven, with performers who elevate the science fiction action through physical commitment and subtle emotional work. Scuster's deck emerges as a heroic figure worthy of rooting for, while Fanning's layered synthetics add humor, heart, and tension to a story that redefines what a Predator film can be.